morning, Rick.
Morning. How are you?
I am very tired. I had a very full weekend. Um, and I told you before we went live, I had a lost weekend. We had a wine and dine that Greg and I went to on Friday. And we were marveling yesterday, Sunday, with our friend Corey, how, like, when we were younger, we used to be able to go out and about and have a number of drinks. And then the next morning, like, I used to get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and go surfing every day, and hungover or not. And I was incapable of getting out of bed until like 4 o'clock. So it was a full weekend. How was your weekend?
Round me when I'm not busy, when there's not a show on or anything like that. It's yesterday was looking at the garden and just sat there admiring the garden. I mean, we're talking today about how you improve your energy. And for me, if I'm ever feeling flat or anything, or I've got something to think about, to just sit in this area that we've designed with a cup of tea, and not think, right? Just to sit in the energy. I mean, it's not particularly warm at the moment, but I can put layers of clothing on. So I just sat there and my mind went to like 3 or 4 different spots. So I imagined in my mind that I was sat on a different bench so that I could look at things from a different vantage point. And rather than focusing on, oh, it's cold and there's not a lot going on, it's the potential of what's coming, everything that's starting to grow. So I spent a good bit of time in the garden. Usual form with me taking my dogs out, and then thinking about sort of things like the meetups that we have, because we was having a conversation before we came on air. Now, I meet a lot of people through my work, but out of work and out of doing this lovely job that we do, I'm not a sociable person. So I don't have a friendship circle as such. What I tend to do is I'm in my environment, so I make my environment suit me. So I'm quite happy in the fact that I'm isolated most of the time. It's going out there sometimes, and when it's just a little bit too peoply for me, throw in alcohol and I'd be absolutely stuffed.
So are you primarily an introvert or an extrovert?
Now, do you know what? That's a cracking question. Right. So how it was described to me just recently, that I'm absolutely convinced that there's something going on in my mindset, whatever the label is. And this person said to me, well, I've met you only briefly, but what I would say is you have a carousel in your head, right? And what happens is depending on what the circumstances are, depends on whose picture, whose character is on that carousel. And I went, do you know what? That's a good way of thinking about it. So as a person there that's sort of sat here talking to you now, and in a sense, we've had this conversation before about being a performer, I would say I'm an extrovert, because instantly when you put me in a situation where I've got to be social or I've got to be that whatever it is that I'm doing, I naturally just jump to it. Like when I do setups for shows, when put all of the seats and the chairs out, if there's a staging area, I cannot walk past it without jumping on and doing something. So the performing monkey in me straight away is there. But if you've got me sat there in my garden having a cup of tea with me and having a chat, I'm still the same guy, but I would say that person or that personality is more of an introvert. So I've gone a long way around the houses with that, Anna, but I don't truthfully know the answer to that question, because when I'm put under pressure or I feel stressed, I immediately go and mask. I immediately set up and because I'm comfortable with that. What I'm not comfortable with is when somebody says, "Oh, are you like, don't know."
Yeah.
I'm just me. So it's difficult. That's a great question. Probably one of the best ones I've been asked in quite a long while. Yeah, strange one.
The reason I ask, any of us that have YouTube channels, any of us that are getting up or, setting up and doing this, like there's a certain amount of extrovert that we have, but because like we're not doing stand-up comedy. We're not in a club and at the mercy of being heckled or a crowd. Our crowd is a little bit muted here. We're not, we can read the comments and everybody, good morning, everybody that's on. Um, we can ignore those comments. We can kind of back off that. But for me, I'm what's classified as an extrovert introvert. So what happens is I will expel all of this energy. I will do the performance, the performing monkey, like you said. I'll do that. And then I have to like kind of curl back into that shell like a hermit crab and kind of replenish and reset. And unfortunately, we in a modern world, we don't get to do that. We watched The Quiet Man yesterday while I was making corned beef and cabbage and all kinds of it. My corned beef came out great. Sometimes it doesn't, but it came out great yesterday. And like one of the things I had said to my girlfriend, some of my friends were over, and I said, oh, I would love to live in that little house just in Ireland, that little beautiful thatched roof with the little garden and everything. And my one girlfriend goes to me, she goes, oh, it looks cold and damp. Looks like it would get cold and damp. And I'm like, yeah, but you could light a fire. Like you could do that. I think, extracting all the noise and all the busyness that we do, I think is, it's good for me in a sense, but it's really difficult to find in a modern world. You really can't get away from everything. It's challenging. We have the Alexa. I can't say it because she's right next to me. Everything's popping up and dinging and making noises and tra-la-laing. So, it's a little bit hard to get that replenishment. And I have been lacking that for the last few weeks. I have not meditated in a few weeks. I really haven't. After we're done, I'm probably going to go upstairs and meditate for a while, and then I'm going to do some content. But I felt like my content hadn't been great. I felt like I was not harnessing positive energy, which is the theme of what we're doing today, the theme of week 2. I just felt like I wasn't doing this. I was really looking forward to this session with you and this morning liftoff, because I personally really need to harness good energy and kind of greet the week. And I need to set my expectation for the week a little bit better. There were some negative things that were in orbit around me, and I'm really putting some boundaries up for that, and trying to preserve my peace, if you will. And I think preserving your peace is kind of the first step to harnessing your positive energy. So, Ms. Lieber says, I feel batteries have been low. This is something that a lot of people are talking about. Now, I know there's some astrological stuff going on. We are in retrograde, I believe. Mercury, I believe, is in retrograde right now. So I think that some people are feeling that. But spring is on its way. And Paul, you have Rick, you have, I always wanted to call you by your last name. I know that sounds terrible. Because it's Rick Paul, like when I was growing up, my last name was Alt, and people would call me Anna Alt. And like, I always call you Rick Paul. And sometimes I cut the Rick off. So I'm sorry that I did that, but, your garden is lovely. I do want to say that I've seen pictures of your garden. It is lovely. I'm so jealous of your greenhouse. And I think that is a big thing, combating this low battery that everybody's been feeling. And like Ms. Lieber saying it in the comments now, I have a number of friends that are just like, I am just beat up from the winter, from the last couple of years, from trying to get back to work, from doing all these things. And I think possibly getting back into gardens, getting back into nature, getting back outside is a huge component. Now, our good friend, the Fitness Hutch, our buddy Paul and Mel, he is a huge advocate of getting outside and getting some sunlight and making sure you do that. And I know that I haven't been doing that. And I love being outside. It's not that I'm like, oh, I don't feel like going outside. It's just, I just don't carve out the time for it. So I'm going to go to our first point on here, even though, we talked about being outside, talked about replenishing and getting that battery recharged from being in our gardens and nature. But what do we mean by our energy, and what's the significance in spirituality for you?
It's separating the two sides of the psyche for me. So all the characters aside and all the components, your subconscious and your conscious mind have got two very different jobs. So your conscious mind does all of the thinking and the analyzing and the bringing the sort of facts to bear, and the subconscious is where your imagination is, where you, but the thing is with it as well, it's a double-edged sword, because it's also where you store all the information that the conscious mind generates it in. And if you're not careful and you get into this habit of not noticing when things are okay, because even while you've been talking, it's been brilliant, because I've had a bit of a flat spot myself just recently. And then when you were saying what I would like to do, I've already got, right? If you were sat in the room that I'm in now, so I look out my window, and as you say, we live in the middle of an old RAF housing estate, right? So it's the military sort of setup. Yeah. Years and years ago, it used to be, so across the road and probably meters away is what was the old runway, which has now been converted into a park. At the top of that runway is the gym, which is my mecca for when I go out there and want to clear my head. Down just below out this front window is the front garden that we've got, which is quite small, but we've got it. Probably quarter of a mile, maybe even less than that, is the woods. So when my energy starts to sink, and what I mean by that is when I sit there and I feel flat. I sometimes try and get a level mood, but it rarely happens. So if I'm dipping below where I'm just thinking, well, that's below the norm, then my energy needs looking at. And what I mean by the energy is your surroundings, how you feel, what your emotions are like, what your input's like. You will have a baseline somewhere along where you just go, I'm doing all right today. I'm not either buzzing, but I'm not flatlining either. So somewhere in the middle is that average, that mean. And that's what how I look at and how I manage. So some mornings I'll get up and I'll be going, something not right here. But it's not always easy to identify what. And this is where I think that you can trip yourself up, because if you're anything like me, who's the overanalyst and overthinker, there's got to be a reason, right? And sometimes there just isn't. So you can spend a day where you've got limited energy chasing an answer to something that you're not going to get. So when your end product is, I want to get a better feeling, and you're not feeling good for a start, it's almost like somebody drilling a hole in what bit of energy you've got, and it's leaking away. And when you sit there at the end of the night going, and we talked a lot, especially with Hutch there, about celebrating each and every goal, each and every achievement. You sit there at the end of the night and go, well, what have I got to look at? The best I can look at in those sort of spaces is that I managed to get out of bed in the morning. It's such a strange thing. So it's just about energy and looking at your energy gauge. So I put it into mind with, you see the old, I don't know, because I've not played video games for a long, long time, really. But if you see like the fighting games where they've got the energy bar and then a hit comes in and the energy bar down and the hit comes in. And then you've got to have pellets to like get your energy back in and win these battles together. Well, that's what your life's like. So when we talk about energy, what's hitting you and depleting your energy, and what pellets or what tasks that you can go out and that you can do and achieve that brings that energy bar back in. So that's my description. A bit wild and a bit abstract, but that's me. You know what I'm like.
Yeah, I love the idea of you share the energy of the 5 people you interact with the most. And I have, a few different circles of people that I interact with. You guys, TD, you, Thor, Rob, and Debbie down in Florida. That's one circle, and we have I think we have a really good influence on each other. I have another like social circle, and then I have a family circle. You know, one of my son brought over a friend that I had heard about him, but I hadn't met him. And he stopped by yesterday because we had a fire pit. And he introduced me. I go, "What's your GPA?" And the kid answered me. He was like, "I have a 3.9." And I was like, "Okay." I said I was kidding, but I said, "That's okay. You know, like you become like the people you hang out with the most." So, I think, with our own energy, I think we do have to understand that there is a contributing factor for other people to affect that. And TD has a cool question here, because I think this is a twofold question. If your energy is horribly drained, how do we deal with clients? So for me, I know for me, there's in substance abuse programs, they say when you are really depleted, when you feel your lowest, and you're into your sobriety for some amount of time, when you feel depleted, go and help someone who's worse off than you. And I really think that that applies to spiritual work. Like when you feel low, you should, scrape that bottom of the barrel and help someone who's lower than you. So for me, working with a client, if my energy is low, I will have like a cup of tea or light some incense or something like that and kind of raise it up. um that part is actually pretty easy, and I do get kind of energized from that. However, if someone is super super negative and not and resistant to the help and resistant to the advice, the spiritual advisement that I'm giving, that can be really really taxing. And after that, I do need to go and replenish, and that's usually bare feet on ground to get grounded. Which is so odd, because like my energy feels so strange right now. I'm not sure if I'm too ethereal or if I'm too grounded. I'm not sure like where I'm falling in that, and I'm going to figure it out today. But Rick, how do you deal with if you have a client and you do feel kind of diminished in terms of energy resources? What do you do?
Right, it's a different perspective. I agree with what you said, but with me, it's how I structure my thoughts. So and this links in really, really well with everything that we spoke about so far. So I've not had a big social circle. I've not had a lot of friends. I've had a lot of associates. So I've spent a lot of time on my own in a little bit of an imaginary world. So there's certain characters that come to the fore in my mind when I'm doing certain things. And I've always found it quite odd that to some people I'm this, and to other people I'm that. And, there's a different mask for every person that I've met. So when it came into doing all of this, right, I was told by people I really ought to be doing readings, that whenever people come around me, they benefited from my energy. And I just found it all really weird. And then I started to compile the evidence that was there in front of me. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, I do make a difference. Like I can be off somewhere else doing something for myself and feel as grumpy as anything. And then somebody's come in and go, "Oh, you would have never have known." So I did Reiki training, right? And I felt extremely uncomfortable doing all of my Reiki training. This hands-on thing and all of this sort of business was just alien to me, and I felt really uncomfortable with it. So what I had to do was detach my thoughts, my energy from that situation. So to answer this question directly, how I deal with it is that what I do is I give this part of me something to do. Go and count cars. Go and do something productive. Bugger off and do whatever you need to do. Now, this part of me will drive me to events, will help me clown about and set up events and things like that. But there's time that we sit down and work with clients, I am now no longer working as me. And this is where I think mediums and psychics, to a certain extent, miss the point, right? We're conduits. We're conduits for somebody else's energy. So we're a channel for somebody else's energy. So what I think and what my viewpoint is on anything is absolutely irrelevant, because I'm working for that client. So my energies are kind of like shut off to that point because I'm working with somebody else. So when you're doing healing with people, and this is where people start to realize that they're burning out, that you give and give and give and give and give and give and give until you've got nothing actually left. What you're actually doing is healing magnetically. You're using your energy to help other people through whatever it is that they're going through. But when you're healing and using spiritual energy, there's a never-ending supply. So you will not feel drained or tired. So it's a good indicator whereabouts you are. When you said you don't know whether you're too grounded or too ethereal, I would say at the moment you're a little bit too grounded because you're in the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, okay.
You've given away all of your energy and you forgot the basics. And I do this regularly because I learn everything the hard way, where I suddenly get on and go, well, I could have took on the world yesterday. Yes, that was because you weren't using your energy. You was using what you was given. So that ethereal energy, for me, when you're using the earthbound stuff, that's magnetic healing. When you're using what's being channeled to you, there's a never-ending supply of that. So that's for me how I handle it. So it doesn't matter, and I'm not being dismissive of this, it doesn't matter what my energy level's like. If I'm feeling horrible, I can do a reading for somebody and I can be in the peak of depression, right? And unless that client knows me personally, they will never know. So what I do is I have one of my characters step forward. My guide's always there. Your gatekeeper's always there. That just goes, right, we'll crack on and we'll do this.
Yeah,
So,
I was surprised you told me you were depleted this morning because you always come with a really bright energy.
that's my trick.
Yeah, it just comes right out of you. And I think people say the same thing about me too. I think they say, oh, you seem like, you've got it all together. And like I've had like parents of my kids, they're like, if I'm like, oh, like I'm a disaster today, and they're like, really? Like you seem like you really have it together. And I'm like, I don't. But I guess that is a facade that we put on. Again, we're entertainers of a sort here, not crazy entertainers, but we're entertainers of a sort. Grumpy Sapper said something that was really nice. His energy has picked up. His life has picked up since he started listening to this. So I do hope that we're affecting people positively. You know what? I know we're affecting people positively because we're coming to the table with some good stuff, which I'm going to let everybody know. So Rick and I are talking about doing a like a mini course for you guys, and you would get 2 for 1. You would get us together kind of coaching you through. So we're gonna talk a little bit about creating a curriculum and setting some pricing for it, and could be really cool. Rick's gonna take the spiritual side, and I'm gonna take the terrestrial side, so we can kind of balance out both of those. Sue Potter, good morning. But we're gonna work on a little mini course for the spring, help everybody kind of lift up. We'll probably do it like toward the end of this 6 weeks. So we're on week 2 today. And, we can work on really personal stuff with you, your specific stuff, in a format, Zoom or Google Meet or Teams or, whatever platform you like to work with. But we're going to come up with a really cool program for you. So it's not just you're getting a reading and finding out, what your paramour really thinks of you. You can work on actually making some course correction in your life and your spiritual life. So I think it's going to be really cool, and we will keep you guys posted on it. So yeah, exciting stuff. So let's talk about, we could talk a little bit about doing like a tarot spread about where energy is lacking. So Rick, I'm going to bring up the card view here. I'm going to switch you into a place of prominence there. So if we're going to do splitting, your terrestrial and your spiritual self, you probably want to figure out where the potholes or the energy vortexes are, the energy whirlpools. So let's look at Rick. Do you mind if I use myself as an example just for today?
If you can cope with that, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't care. I'll bare my soul right now. Oh, I'm gonna throw cards all over the place. Nothing like starting out the week with a sloppy shuffle. So let's look at. Oh, and I should have used that ethereal tower, but all right. So we're gonna look at my spiritual self. So we'll do need, want, need, get. So what I want, what I need, what I get. That's my spiritual self. What I want, what I need, what I get. So, oh boy. So this is my spiritual self. And I always like this 3 card spread. Like a lot of people, when they start reading tarot, when they start getting into some kind of divination, they do like 1 card pulls. I never find that a 1 card pull is really valuable enough for me. I need just like a little bit more context. And how I describe my the major arcana and the minor arcana to my students. I tell them the major arcana are like your nouns, the minor arcana are like your adjectives. So you can get just a little bit more out of that sentence. So if my spiritual self, what I want is I want spiritual stability. I want my abilities and my energy level and that positivity to be a constant. What I need to understand is that this sun in reverse, it's not a constant. You're going to have ebbs and flows or suns rising and suns setting. You're going to have that. So you have to learn to work with that, just like the tides of the ocean. What I get is this judgment in reverse. I am still going to judge myself because I'm one of those people that I'm like, oh, if you're going to be spiritual, you're going to be like spiritually pure and like be this like glowing angel. And I am not going to be this glowing angel. I know you are a fallen angel, Rick. So, we all kind of have to understand that. And my angel guides are actually warriors. They don't look really clean and fancy, and they are warriors. They're kind of war worn. So this will be something that I have to work on. This will be something that I meditate on this week, about not being perfect. Tarot's not perfect, readings are not perfect. None of us are perfect. We're perfectly imperfect. So I have to kind of resign myself to that. And I am never going to be one of those soft, what do you call it, soft and fluffy, or
that was your thing, wasn't it? That was your thing.
Yeah, I'm not going to be soft and fluffy. I'm not going to be hippy dippy. I'm going to be approximately what I am right now. So now my terrestrial self, what I want is I want to see the money stop flowing out the door. I feel like I am spending, and getting nothing in return, blaming the economy a little bit on this one. What I need is to get out of this mindset. And this is something that I've been struggling with my entire life. That mindset of it's not enough, it's not enough, it's not enough. I need to get out of that mindset. And what I get from that is finding solace and peace in being appreciative. So this really is like a gratitude thing for me. I need to be grateful for the things that I have. I need to really see the things that I have and settle into them. So this is a way, I don't want to belabor this. Good morning, dear.
Hi, I'm going to school. Can you do me a favor? When I get back, can you remind me to do a load of towels?
I can do a load of towels while you're gone. I love you.
Okay, love you too.
Make sure you hand in that brochure.
Yep.
That is my sunshine. Off to school. So this is a way that you can use tarot to kind of diagnose what, this want, need, get kind of format. You can kind of diagnose where your energy is going, but you should always look at the spirit side and the terrestrial side, because you may have energy going in different directions. Here, I'm just starring a comment there. Anything you would like to add, my friend?
Right. This is where when you how to put this right. So in regards to your ability as a psychic, a reader, and a teacher, I'm sat here in awe. But there's just sometimes, and I will say this to anybody who's listening, you have to take people down off their pedestals, right? Even whether you admire them and think they're brilliant and things like that, and then realize that you've got a job to do. So in this regard, I've got a job to do. So I have to take away my admiration. Right? I have to separate any of the knowing of the conversation that we've had. I go to my skill set and what I do. And what I do over these last 6 years that I've toured up and down our wonderful country giving readings is I kick people up the arse, because that is what I am good at, right? Forget about how I'm feeling or what my opinion is. As I'm saying, this is where I put my money where my mouth is. So my style of tarot is I have got a crap memory. So I spent lots of money on training with various different readers. I've gone through I don't know how many different packs. Start out at the Rider-Waite, and the Rider-Waite gives you a very good grounding on how that you work with your tarot stuff. So I've got bits of that in. So then when I sit there and a client comes to me and asks for me for information on their reading, I go, oh, right. So then I start to tell myself a little story. So is that the Knight of Pentacles there? Sorry, the Knight of Pentacles on the left there.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right. So the Knight of Pentacles, what he represents to me is knights for me are all about action, right? But like with everything, there's an exception to the rule. So the Knight of Pentacles on my tarot deck is stood there in a field grazing with grass growing around the knight, which says to me that action doesn't need taking. Things are well in place for whatever results and resources that you're looking for. So he stands there contentedly. Right. So if we accept that as a fact, that there we've got what we're looking for within reach, we've just got to have that little bit of patience that the finer parts of that are yet to be brought in, because it's like with everything, we've got to, cross the T's and dot the I's. So we've not got all of the pieces to the jigsaw puzzle. So then I would look at going, right, so if I have not got what I truly want, what possibly might be the problem? So we look at the sun. And what I've learned over these last few weeks of working on the other stuff that we've been doing is reversals don't necessarily mean the opposite, but they can be a mitigating factor as to why things aren't actually progressing in the way that we want. Now, the sun to me is one of, if not the most positive card in the tarot deck. And what does the sun represent? Well, it represents growth. It represents nurture. It represents warmth. It represents planting the seeds. If, however, I've gone into this little bit of a funk, and I'm as guilty as anybody of this, and I sit there and I go, do you know what? I just need to consolidate. I just need to get through. I just need to get by. In a sense, what we've done is we've pulled out the fuel pipe and we've squeezed it. Right? So there's no fuel coming in. We're just focusing on the fact that we haven't got. Right? So this is, we talked about having a boot on your neck in some regards. Right. So unclog the fuel pipe and flow, because what you've set up is going to pay dividends. I know that in my heart, and this is where we got the spiritual side coming in. Forget about what the cards are telling me. This is what my heart tells me, my energy tells me. Then when I look at judgment, right? So how I remember judgment, the thing that stuck in my mind because anybody who's looking about tarot cards, right? And people, believe me, I've gone through this. You get the book and you look through the book. Did I get this right? Oh my God, what if I've said the wrong words? Right. Anybody who's looking now that is learning tarot and they've got a box, I want you to commit something to me before we get off air. Get the instruction book and throw it as far down the garden as you can do. Put it in a bucket, set fire to it, whatever it is that you need to do, but get rid of that instruction book. Flow with your stuff. So I looked at judgment, right? And judgment for me, R-E, the letters, R-E at the beginning of a word. So I might need to re-look at something. I might need to rejuvenate something. I might need to reconcile something with. You used a word there, resigned. Right? So even then, even those words, I'm resigning myself. Why? Wrong choice of words, wrong choice of energy. Because if we're resigned, what that is saying is, I suppose I'll just have to accept that. Whereas I would be looking at that as there's something there that might need rejuvenating. So my word association, and a thing I get a lot, and I just want to show how I tend to work. So with somebody, say I want to deliver the message that you want to get rid of something, you want to just chuck it to one side. I get the image of dancing penguins in my head, right? Dancing penguins then goes onto a frozen lake. The frozen lake then takes me to the word frozen. Frozen then takes me to the song, Let It Go. So when I look at that and I look at judgment, let it go, let it go, let it go. And thank God I'm not going to sing. So we move on to the bottom thing. And you said a comment to me without divulging any privacy or confidentiality that you want this to be your source of living and you are okay with money. Right? Now, this is where I'm going to go with you spiritually here and say, then you have work to do in regards to forgiving yourself for having that way of putting it. Because if you accept that is what you want to do, then you've got to allow yourself to do it. So anybody that says, right, I'm putting a product out there and then starts going, oh, I don't know whether I've priced that right. I don't know whether I'm too expensive. Right. You've got an issue with money. You've got an issue with what you deserve. So what I say with that card is it's upside down because that is the position that you placed it in. If you turn that right way up, you know then the opportunities are going to start to come in. But if you start looking at why, and this is when we talked about depleting energy, and we start to look at, there isn't an answer to it, why it's not coming in at the moment. It's just a focus. And as we've spoken about many times with a hutch, what we focus on is what tends to grow. So with that, you need to free yourself. And how we do that is we re-look at, we rejuvenate, and we re-energize. The world is going to be as it says it's always going to be. No matter how good we think we've got it or how in control of our lives we've got it, the things throw spanners at us. We have outside influences. We have the relationships. We have our family ties and all of this sort of stuff. But if we stay level and grounded, then we can make the world what we want. We don't have to respond to the stimulus that's being presented to us. So in a way, this unsociability of mine is a great thing because I'm not tied down to anything. I can step in and out of whatever I need to. And then we end with that lovely lady there who, for me, is a financially independent businesswoman, has got the ability to stockpile money. She likes the finer things in life. But if you went to her, she would have a tried and trusted method because it's worked before. She knows what she's good at. So when I get to a 9 is nearer completion for me. So as we go along that route, we've got well established, we've got things well in place. So if we want what we're going to get towards the end of the year, well, we revert to what we know. Because the next thing for me, and this is how I read the 10, when the 10 comes in, the 10 is all about completion. And I call it the war chest card, which says through all of the work that I've done, then I'm going to get the rewards for the effort that I put in, which takes me nicely and neatly all the way back to the beginning of that process of going, the Knight of Pentacles stood in the field waiting for his just desserts. And that's the way that I would read that spread.
Yeah, I always describe to my students the 9 is we kiss the bride and 10 is we get in the honeymoon car and take off and go on the honeymoon. So it's not the end, but it's similar to the end. Sue Potter says that you sound like Michael Caine, and I think I agree. I think I agree with that.
I do not sound like Michael Caine. Michael Caine sounds more like that. And I want to be on every bloody program that's made.
All of a sudden, it became the Kingsman. I've never
Do
seen
not throw those bloody spears at me.
So, so just taking a pause. Foxy has been poorly,
Oh, bless
and
you, Foxy.
last night he was on with Trevor. I don't know if you saw that. I caught it on the replay. But Foxy, put Vicks on your feet. And like Trevor told you to do this, put Vicks on your feet and put socks on, and it will help you not cough during the night. You put a little on your chest too, but it will help because we adore you, Foxy. You have such a huge fan base of content creators. It's so great. But we had a couple of questions. Foxy wants to know if you're cold in your short sleeves.
No, it's a mindset thing, Foxy. We're sat out here. The spring is coming in. I decided I didn't want the waistcoat on, so I thought let's get some upliftment coming in. So I'm sat here. No is the answer. I'm not cold this morning. It's a mindset thing.
So, and Sue Potter has a question about the Empress card. Now, I know you have a I don't want to say an odd relationship with tarot, but it's not your go-to.
It is.
Tool.
It is.
Well, it's not your go-to tool, and to be sure, you know, I like to use the cards on YouTube because it's super easy and visual, and people can kind of see it. And when Alicia Wicker and I do dueling tarot, the interesting thing is we have very different opinions about things, but sometimes on a subject we get common cards in our own spreads, which is pretty wild. So, you know, for the Empress, how does the Empress read for you
That's the mother card.
Yes.
The Empress. So if you split the energies, so this is how it feels to me, rather than saying that what I visualize. So if you get an Emperor coming in, your Emperor's your organizer. Your Emperor's your stabilizing influence, will tell people what he expects and will tell people to get on with it and will delegate. Whereas the Empress comes in and she's like the sweet lady. She's the sweet, gentle energy. She brings in that nurture. She brings in that love, that support. And rather than saying, you do this, what she does is, right, we've got a list of things to do. Let's crack on and do it. Just like if your mum supported you when you was kids, think about that sort of energy that you could go to mum with anything. You know, if you wanted to share something with that you were struggling with, you get an arm around you. You get that positive, right, come on. Yes, I know that this is difficult and I know that we've got to do this, but she brings that loving, sweet, gentle energy. I keep saying the word sweet, but it's just, I'm not a sweet person, but just bringing in that nurture and that guidance. So it's support. I mean, as a power couple, the Emperor and the Empress are great, but sometimes we need more of one than we do of the other. So I was brought up quite a lot of you will do. Whereas sometimes when you're sensitive and you're sensitive to energy, what you can do with more of is people there that will support you and give you that love and that platform to go out there and entertain, as we've been talking about, go out there and uplift people. It depends on what your soul needs. So the Empress for me, summed up in one word, mother.
Yeah, she's the mother card for me too. But just two kind of energy. So when I teach tarot, I always teach that every card has 3 upright and 3 reversals. So there's so just let's take this. I don't have my Empress handy, but we'll just take, actually, let's see if the Empress just shows up for me. Because it would be nice to have a little talk with her, right? Where is she?
Oh, I've just picked mine off the bottom of the
Did you? All right, so there's our Empress.
searching.
There's our Empress. So, and I'll pull down our card view. You hold her up. I can take that off there. So I have an increasing energy upright, a stable energy upright, and a decreasing energy upright. And then the same way in the reverse. So every card, all 78 cards, actually have 6 meanings for me.
Wow.
But it's an approximation. Like you have to look at it as a spectrum. It's like a clock. So for me, the Empress, when she is in the upright, the increasing energy, and this will be very difficult for for the men that are on here. There's a point in a pregnancy, and I believe it was called the quickening years ago, when you would actually feel the baby move for the first time. It feels like little butterfly, little weird vibe. That is that increasing energy. She's pregnant and it's developing, and we're starting to feel that energy of life. And then the stable energy is when she has that baby and she's nurturing it, and she's still nursing, and she's, able to hold it and carry and really protect that. And then the waning energy is when that baby is going off to school and starting to become more autonomous and not need that connectivity with the mother. So, I get that kind of thing. It's all a creative parenting energy. Now, in the reverse, it gets a little bit different, and we talk about the mommy dearest. Even though I have a different opinion about Joan Crawford, I do think that the book Mommy Dearest was a hit piece. Just saying, I don't think she was that bad of a parent. I think she's demanding, but I don't think she was depicted as Christina Crawford really depicted her in that book. But nonetheless, so when you go into the reversal, that's where you have a mother that is either neglectful or purposefully a damaging kind of parent, and then an absentee parent. You would get that kind of a vibe. So the Empress card, I think, can be a tremendous energy, a tremendous like reparative energy, a protective kind of bubble that you can put around someone. Depending on how you get that card in a spread, it could be you need that energy, or you need to exercise that energy. You need to demonstrate that energy to someone. So it really depends. I like the Empress card. I think the Empress card is a good card. I mean, if she does come in the reverse, and some people don't read reversal, some people leave the card upright and they just sense the energy, they would still get that. The spectrum, the declining, increasing, and stable energies in either direction. Some people would say, if they get her in the upright, they just sense that it's a declining energy or a more negative parenting approach. But for the most part, I do think she's a fairly positive card. She comes off like the Sun card. The Sun card is very rarely negative. It's a really, really odd occasion where the Sun card comes in as negative. I agree with you, Rick, that the Sun is probably the best card in the deck. That, I love that Three of Cups because I love my tribe. But the Empress card too. We're hard pressed to get her in a negative kind of frame. So let's pull that down.
There's a great question in there from Sue again as well.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that's a good question. Okay, do you want to take that first?
Yeah, I can answer that. So I'm one of these that when I work, I'm honest. So we've spoken a lot about tarot cards and what they mean. For me, when I'm working, and if there is a tarot card, and for all the people that have studied out there, I apologize profusely, because if there is a tarot card, I'll just tell you a very quick story, if I may, and then I will get round to answering that question. So I had somebody come to me for a reading, and they got my cards, right? And they were looking, and they were sort of looking and getting really nervous. And I said to them, what are you worried about? Oh, what if you tell me something bad? And the other reader, who was across the other side of the room, sort of looked at me and went, I've read for her before, you won't get any joy here. So I said, because I'm feeling a little bit sporty today, take a seat. Oh, no, because I don't know you. And what if you tell me something bad about my future? I went, well, that's not the way that I work. I said, but I want to try a little exercise with you. I said, because for me, tarot cards are pretty bits of cardboard with pictures on. All right, so if there is a tarot god, then he is going to shoot me at some point. So I'm in more danger than you are from any tarot reading. So I said, do you recycle? And this is an example of how random I can be when I'm reading for people. She said, well, what do you mean? I said, do you recycle? Do you put bits of cardboard in the bin and things like that? She went, yes. Right. Have you had a box of cereals recently? She says, yes. So if I sent you home, run me through the process of what you would do if you had a box of cereals when they're finished. She said, well, I'd take the inner lining out and I'd put that in one bin. And then the other bit I'd throw in the recycling bin. I went, great, okay. So I want you to do me an exercise when you go home. It's related to your query. She says, what? I said, I want you to go into that recycling bin when you get home, pull out the cereal packet, go to the ingredients list, run your finger all the way down the ingredients list. And when you come to monosodium glutamate, I want you to stand there with your hand on your heart and ask them what your future is. She went, that's bloody ridiculous. It's only a piece of cardboard. Right. And I went, oh my God, you've so got it. I went, right. So when you sit with me, it's your intent that is going to come through in those cards because you pick them. I don't pick them for you. So in regards to, sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
No, that's okay.
But in regards to answering the question directly, right, the hardest reading I've ever done in the, we're coming up to the end of the 7th year that I've been doing this at professional shows. The hardest person I've ever read for was my mother-in-law, precisely because of that personal knowledge. So I said to my guides, right, I don't want to do this, right, and I certainly don't want to get paid for it. And I said to her, right, if you sit down, because I knew what she wanted something that I never guarantee with any clients, and that was spiritual connection with a specific person. And I said, you know me, you know my development, you know that I don't read like that. So I brought in everything, right? I kicked her up hill and down dale spiritually, because when I turned around, she was in tears, and I said, I warned you at the beginning that if you sit with me, you're going to get everything, right? And I have not held back. Now, you spoke about earlier that when you put that energy into something and you give it your all, and you know you're in that right zone, and then when you come away from it, and it's that recovery method, because you've given that much energy, you sometimes just need to sit in it. I felt like shit. I am not going to lie. I do not like making people cry. It just seems to be a thing energetically that it's like a release with a lot of people that come and sit in my energy. And I felt terrible. But spiritually, I was bang on the money. Absolutely bang on the money, because my wife was stood in the background and she was stood there and went, whoa. And when they played it all back, she went, you didn't know that. You couldn't possibly have known that. It's never been discussed. Now, the mother-in-law will no longer have a reading with me. She'll ask, and then she'll be reminded, don't have a reading because you know what happened last time. And this is the same with every single client that comes to me, right? I think about catchphrase, which is say what you see. So whether you're my best friend, even though I don't have friends, whether you're somebody that's connected with me, if you're sat with me, I am charged by the spirit world to bring through what they are passing on. It is not for me to sit there in any judgment or any consideration or even having any prior knowledge of that. So I'm going to be honest with you, Sue, on that, in regard to that, it doesn't have any bearing with me whatsoever. If the person that I'm reading for brings that in and said, what do you as my friend think, then I've got to separate my energies again. If you're asking my opinion, right, that's an entirely different thing to what I spiritually feel. I have given messages off cards that I personally don't agree with. So I work with these angel cards and they will say certain things. And because it's worded in a certain way, I will read the wording, because that's the card that the client has picked. And I will also add what I feel. So to answer that question directly, it doesn't affect me at all.
So, I can detach from it, but sometimes my girlfriend Shelly and I had done an internet party. Basically we booked a party with a number of young ladies, and a few of them I knew through family. And so I said, well, Shelly, why don't you take them? Because that way they'll get like a really good reading. Because I didn't want to bring to the table what I already knew was going on in their life. And unfortunately, that was kind of a mistake on my part. Because I should have just embraced that. You know, there are times when I do, and I also had a family member who had asked me to contact a dearly beloved, and I reached out to you and I said, you know, can you get me some help with this? Like, I've never reached out to that person, who I was very fond of, the person who passed away. I was very, very fond of. And I just said, I just don't know if I want to do that, or if I, you know, should do that, or if I'm going to get enough, you know, quality information for my family member. Um, you know, there's a component of my course where I talk about separating imagination from intuition. And when you have it's called front loading. You know, when you have some of the information, the front loading is really good. Like when we're looking for a missing individual, Greg and I used controlled remote viewing to find a lost dog. A friend of ours cousin was watching a family member's dog, and dog got out and was lost in the woods. And so Greg and I used, Greg is very gifted at controlled remote viewing. He actually did most of the reading while I was writing it down in the card. But we needed to know what the dog looked like. You know, like that's quality front loading that you would have. So having that kind of a personal knowledge makes a little bit of sense. If it's a situation, say it's a couple that's having a relationship issue, knowing something about the issue is not a bad thing, because you can, you know, get another person's perspective. You can get spirit's perspective on it. You can get the karmic reasoning for why they're going through that challenge or that experience. So you can use the cards, or you can use runes, or you can use the pendulum and all of that stuff. You know, you can do that to figure out you know, what the best course of action is for that person. So, oh, my friend Janice is on. Yeah, Janice, I taught Greg how to do CRV. He's actually really, really good at it. It's probably the artist in him. So good morning, dear. So Rick, positive practical solutions for harnessing positive energy. I like to, I'm just going to skip over here. I hope we answered Sue's question well. No, cancel. TD is saying she needs to have some basic knowledge of the situation. I think that's totally fine. You know, some people don't want to give that to you professionally. Grumpy Sapper, I did a little bit of a reading for him online. He gave me 85%. I like data. I like data like that. But you know, I did an on the fly unsolicited reading for him, and it was a past life situation that's kind of bleeding through into this lifetime. So you know, sometimes it's sometimes it's good to have front loading. Sometimes you don't need the front loading. Sometimes that storyline's going to unfold very quickly, and you're going to get that. But so you know, here we get to the best part. So practical solutions that we can use to counter negativity. So we talked about those circles of influence that we're in. I have my professional, now I have a professional circle, which is great, an international professional circle. And I have my personal circle, my social circle, and my family circle. So the elements of negativity, what I am trying to do is insulate myself from them. We can't avoid them altogether. Agree, Rick? Like you know, you're going to have those negative people that roll into your life, and you're going to have negative thoughts that roll into your life. So, you know, what's the best ways that we can insulate ourselves from them? So what do you do? Like, you know what I'm going to bring up our friend, even though we're not going to feed too much energy into it. We have a number of internet professional people that we work with that were dealing with some really caustic, malignant negativity. So they all went through a very interesting situation where they decided to just kind of turn their back on it. Like, what's your feeling on that? I think that is not a bad idea.
I mean, I look at acceptance is a big thing in my life. I spent a long time in a very macho environment. A lot of the work that I've been in is BS environments, that all people put up these fronts and things like that. It was only when I started to accept that people's comments and people's reactions to me hurt, right? So then I started to question, well, why are they hurting? Well, it's because I'm sensitive, right? So if I am sensitive, imagine that you've got a condition that you need to take medication for. You take that medication because it stops you feeling poorly, or it stops you going deteriorating. So I needed like I do with anything, I'm a thought stripper. I like to know why I'm thinking. I like an end process to it. So I thought, so what can I do as a sensitive person in that environment to protect myself from these lower level energies? What I came up with was detachment, in the sense of, if you can imagine cutting a cord, because the thing is about life, it will show you more than once the opportunity to learn a lesson. Our involvement in it is how quick we learn that lesson, means the less pain that we have to put up with. So there's certain people that come round to my house, or I've been involved with over the years, where for some unknown reason, until I learned the lesson, was like, you'd go out and you'd have a normal conversation. What you think, you might have had a giggle over something. They tend to want to open up and tell you all about their lives. And when they'd gone, you were like, oh. And then all of a sudden, it's sort of like a wave goes out into your house and it affects the energy in your house. The dogs will start irritating you. The parcel person will turn up and knock on the door just when you're busy doing something. The noise will, and it rolls on. So what I started doing was realizing that out there, whether they realize it consciously or not, there's energy vampires. So I developed in this mind this technique that I will accept all comers that come to me. Right? I'll hear them out, because at the end of the day, I might be the one person that person needs to heal out, but it's a one-shot free deal. So if they're coming and they're bringing all of their negativity and they're dumping all of their crap on me, right? I don't take in lodgers. So I will do my best to help. I will do my best to understand and empathize. But as I've said before, sympathy is between shit and syphilis in the dictionary. So I always look at constructive ways of helping that person out when they dump their stuff. If they then want to come back and have another go with me, right, I need to have seen that they put effort into changing their lives. So if I know that person, once they arrive in my energy field, is going to bring negativity, I'm going to be saying to my guides, right, I want that avenue shut down. I want to be protected. Now, however you do that, whether you imagine being surrounded by mirrors, wrapped in cotton wool, your guides and your angels, whatever that is, but you need to be quite selfish in this. And I have no qualms in saying this, of just going, right, when that person's gone, I need to feel safe. So I detach my thoughts, my energies from that person's situation. Have a look at people. Imagine that you went into a train station, and I'm sorry, ladies, if this is stereotypical, but it's the only way I can tell this story. So the ladies that I've known over the years always have a bag with everything in it. You know, the handbag, it's got everything that you need in there. Welding kit, you know, spanners for rebuilding the axle on your car, a surfboard, whatever it is that you ladies need to carry in that bag. And you go to a train station and you stand up and the train comes in, and then you realize that you've not got your bag with you. Right, so you've not got your bag with you. So logic kicks in there. Right, I remember having it 10 minutes ago. So I wonder if somebody's picked it up for me. So where would I logically go? The lost property office. So I go into the lost property office and I go, oh, and I describe the bag that's missing. And they go, right, here's 3 of them. Boom, boom, boom. Is any one of them yours? So you open up the first one. Oh, what a relief. It's got your credit cards in. It's got your phone in it. It's got all of the bits that you need. And you go, oh, thank you. So we've been at that depth where we've gone, oh my God, it's all gone wrong. The world, I've got to cancel my cards, blah, 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 blah. And the storyline goes in. Oh, I'm in this sense of relief now because I haven't got to do any of that. Right. Most people would then stop there and go, oh, thank goodness. No, when you're sensitive and you want to look after everybody else in this world and bring them happy thoughts and feelings, you will use your remaining energy that you've got after that shot to go and look at the other 2 bags and see if you can find an identification in them, a mark, so that you can pass on that relief to them. And this is where we go wrong, right? That is not our story. That is not our circus. That is not our monkeys. Yes, you can be empathic. Yes, you can be loving. And if you're not going out of your way. But what I'm talking about is energy-wise. The trouble is that we take on board too much of other people's stuff, good, bad, and indifference. And at times we need to learn to say this word no. And we need to govern the energy. So I look at cutting cords with energy. Anybody there that's difficult, I will deal with it on a day where I feel able to do it. But make no bones about it. I don't do people that are whinging around me. I will be straight and to the point. Right. What's the problem? Because I hate emotional blackmail. It really irritates me. I hate attention seekers. If you've got an issue, tell me what it is, because you've come to me for a reason. You will get a straight answer. So I just detach from it all. Unless they're going to tell me what I can do that's going to make a difference. Because if not, I'm not just going to be somebody there that they can emotionally dump on. So I hope that makes a bit of sense, but that's just my storytelling way of going around it. I just cut through the cords, and I always make sure that with my guides, my inspirers, the angels, that I'm always fully protected.
No. It does make sense. And Ms. Lieber said she energy vampires 100%. She uses the mirror technique. We had put on the on our content plan. So call to action for practical solutions. You can do a positive repair session, which is doing the mirror technique, repelling that negative energy that comes your way. For me, what I'm going to do after we finish up this morning, I'm going to go upstairs. I am going to do a really long meditation session. If it takes an hour, if it takes 2, I'm going to do that. I need to make up time for the last few weeks. And what I need to do is refuel from energy source, from spirit. I need to really refuel myself. I haven't been doing it. I've been beating myself up, and then I have to finalize our taxes. I hate doing our taxes. They're a pain in the butt. And my issue is that I get everything in a different format. Greg emails me his documentation. I get paper documentation from one source. I have internet documentation from other sources. And I just find it so annoying. And the worst part is I do it all year long. Like, I'm dumping that information into my tax thing all day long. But that's going to be like my big practical thing today. I do have a reading in the afternoon, and then I have a meeting way later on tonight. I need to refuel for all of that. I can't do anything before I refuel. This is a refuel session for me. But I am going to really plug in. I'm like a Tesla that, is dying on the side of the road right now. So, also you need to do an energy dump. So what do we mean by energy dump? I tell a lot of my clients this. I tell them you have to, because a lot of my clients, that they're tarot clients, they like to come to me for tarot readings. So I tell them you have to take your cup and you have to dump it out. Whatever's in there, you have to dump all of that out. If you create a vacuum, you can fill that with whatever kind of energy you want. So dump that out. Your emotions can be good. They can be bad. They can be sad. I actually burst into tears like 3 times this weekend. I don't know why. I burst into tears. I got very emotional with one of our friends, telling him that, we consider him family. And I got very emotional. It was like a happy tears, but, I did burst into tears. I'm not, I'm an emotional person, but it takes a lot to actually get me to make water work. So dumping out the collection, the melange of energy that we have, can get us back to that baseline of 5. So Gregopedia prides himself on not having spikes or drops in emotion. So, my family's Italian and Russian. I go up to 11, I drop down to -43, I go up to negative or positive 50. I'm never from a 1 to 10. Greg is always at a 5. And there's a funny story about like when we got our dog Raven, and she was just a puppy. And when we were coming back from that, I said, "Okay, so are you at a 5 right now?" And he was like, "No, I'm like 7.2." And I was like, "Oh, that's so nice." And so we got back to the house, and we had Raven, we got her settled, and I said, "All right, so you're 7.2 or 7.5 when we got Raven. What were you when you kissed me the first time?" And he was like 5.6.
Brave or naive?
I was like,
That's a
"Oh,
trap.
okay,
Oh my word.
that's great." So, but you know what? He's very stable, so that's okay. Hutch is in here. Hi, Hutch. So, getting back to that baseline of 5 or whatever it is, go get a puppy. Dumping out dumping out that emotion and get yourself back to the baseline, I think is really important, especially for somebody like me who is very erratically emotional. I like to feel big. I like to feel big joy. I like to feel big sorrow. I do like to do that. So, doing the energy dump, I think is great. And one of the things that I like to do is so-called action, coming home, the doorway dump, which sounds really terrible. Um, but before you get into your house, if you're out in office, if you're out with people, if you're at a big event, something like that, and you're absorbing some energy, what I think we do is before we come into the house, we take that pause before we get in the door and we scrape our feet on our doormat. It's there for a reason. And you can feel the energy dissipating through your feet into the doormat, tra la la. I'm a big advocate of changing your doormat every spring. You should change it every spring. It's going to collect dirt, it's going to collect nonsense and bullish and whatever else that you've picked up as you're out and about in the world. Scrape those feet off and energetically visualize all of that nonsense coming out in the mat and going away and soaking back into the earth to be recycled and turned into something else. Those are things that I personally like to do. Rick, do you have anything that you like to do? Hutch says here, I know Rick's way. Me and him used his methods in the prison service. Yeah, do you want to elaborate on that, or is that
No, the truth is, right, and me and Hutch know one another personally, so he won't mind me saying this. There's nothing to hide. So this isn't anything macho or anything like that. And I know this for a fact with Hutch in the department that he worked in, that being on that front foot and fighting all the time doesn't always work. It's not the best thing to meet aggression with aggression. So if I'm getting this right, and I hope I am over the years that I've known him, the thing is, we will have talked people out of more aggression than we will have engaged in fighting. So mine was my sense of humor. I'm very, very much one of these people that tells a story. I could tell a prisoner anything and have them sit there like kids around the fireplace because they didn't know what I was going to come out with next. So, and then there was the other side where when we'd exhausted all of that, where you're saying, right, it's got to that point now where it needs dealing with in a different way, then you've got that skill you've got that skill set in your toolbox. So it took all sorts to make it work, but we were all good in different ways. Just took me longer to realizing that, and even now I look back and I think I've not given myself enough credit. But just to tie up on that point there, 3 letters. And I like simplifying for me. A, B, C. I put a video out on YouTube And I've not got that many subscribers, and I was a bit surprised that not many more picked up on it, because some of the things that have got big viewers, I think, holy shit, where is that? Why? And then you look at one and you think, do you know what? I've done a really good piece there, and then next to nobody looks at it. Right. So the 3 letters, A, B, C, start the alphabet. A, accountability to yourself and yourself only about how you're feeling with your energy and whether you can be bothered, whether you've got the skill set, whether you've got the wherewithal. The only person who needs to feel anything about it is yourself. So all you need to answer to is yourself. And we're going back on your taxes thing, right? So give yourself the credit that you deserve. There's a lot of information, but it's got to be got through. And the only person who's not going to benefit from it if you don't do it is you. So that's your accountability. So I look at the thing, right? What happens if I don't do it? Is that going to affect anybody else? Well, no, it isn't. So there's my accountability. B is bollocks to anybody that puts you in that state where you feel like I owe you something, or a negative, or I want to bring you down. I want to put, right, B to that, right? And C allows me to make those changes. So I go through that stage all of the time around somebody's energy. Right. Do I want to get involved with it? There's my accountability. B to anybody that brings my energy down. Because I would say, like I say to you, give anybody a one-shot deal. And then the C is that I can make those changes. And I run that way through. It's like a flow chart for me. Am I going to benefit from it? Am I going to learn anything from it? If I'm not going to get anything else, you know what my famous bucket is now? That's where it gets filled up. And for those of you that aren't aware, I can't swear too much, but the ethic bucket, I designed a big one. And every now and again, there's sort of situations where I just go, I can't fathom this out. I don't want to help. I can't get involved. It's too personal. It hurts. I'm not going to benefit from it. I'm not going to learn anything by it, by pushing through, by using stale energy or the tired little bit of energy that I've got. So it goes in that bucket. And that just frees up my spirit for the things that I want to do. I say, I'm there for everybody. And what I found over this last sort of 6 to 9 months in particular, since my dad's passing, is the person that I haven't been there for is the person that is looked upon by quite a lot of people as the battery charger for other people, the healer's healer. And this is where I believe that a lot of what, and I think this is the same with you, I think it's the same with Paul, is when you're stripped away all of those layers and all of those labels that you've been the counselor, you've been the teacher, you've been the guide, you've been the dutiful whatever, you've been the partner, and then somebody just goes, right, just take all of that to one side, all of that work that you do, what do you do for yourself? And then it's like that, and then you go, right, it's all on you. The focus is all on you. So this is now what I spend my life doing. I don't feel guilty about it. I don't feel angry about it. I don't feel upset about it. I feel relieved because it's a side of my character that I no longer have to put on. If somebody messages me and I'm in that space where I can help, I will. I'll move things like we were talking about off camera. I'll move things to accommodate if I can help.
Yeah.
But if my energy is being used, so much like the superpower, if it's being used for evil or it's being taken for granted, you will see me taking bloody big steps in the opposite direction. I'll tell you, I'm not going to hint and drop people, because you've just said this, that, and the other, or you've hinted this, that, and the other. No, I'll tell you, you've been a pain in the arse. You're not listening. You're not learning. You're not bringing anything beneficial to it. And I don't care whether it's friends, family. Paul put it up when we was having a conversation a while back about I'm done. Right? There was words, and I'll not reveal the source of what we were talking about. I'm done. Mm-hmm. Right? And this is what I get in my head now. If there's something there when I've warned you, I've told you, I've helped, I've guided, I've given my energy to, if I utter the words, I'm done, then believe me, I'm done. Because I've got nothing left to give to the situation, and I'm not going to keep explaining it. I've given you everything that I can give. I'm done. And then my next little bit is always the same. And if anybody's watched any of these videos with me, you will know this. And then what? If I've said I'm done, and then what? Anyway, I've gone off again. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's fine. So Hutch said that he would love to come on and have a chat with us. So let's set that up with him. Let's see if we can set that up for this week. We'll have
He's a brilliant life coach. He's amazing, isn't he? So, and he's somebody I spoke to him the other week, and it was brilliant. And he said to me at one point, and this is how I liked how he simplified it. And he went, "Do you realise that you've spoken at me now for 40 minutes?" And I haven't said anything. And I hadn't. But when we were speaking off camera about sometimes we just need that where we just let go of the energy. And the thing about the energy dump now, that's put an image in my mind now that I can have that effort bucket outside the door before not even taking it into the house. Right? Is it relevant? Do I need to deal with it? No. If it's not mine, great. It can stay outside the house and then Mother Earth will take it and it'll be cleaned and cleansed. I don't know what the correct terminology is, but the
recycle.
Clean and cleansed and then put back into something productive. So if you're not getting anything productive from your energy and your thoughts, dump it.
Yeah. And that's I love the Hutch's Sunday night chat because I feel like it's such a great bookend to the week. Oh, Hutch, we all are. Like down here. We all are. Don't worry about that.
Oh
but
God,
I
yeah.
think
100%.
having that bookend on the week where like because Sunday is supposed to be Sunday fun day. And I have such a hard time embracing Sunday fun day with my family because I'm meal prepping. I'm trying to take care of I never get to have like like this is really fun Mother's Day brunch. Like I never get to do that. Like I'm always kind of scrambling. So the Hutch is having like their Sunday night chat is really great for me because I usually sit down and I play some Mario Kart. Now, like I know that sounds so stupid, but I love to race. So I just think it's such a great way to kind of have that fireside chat kind of just chill out. And he has the chill out lounge on his Discord, and I just think it's a really nice end of the week. And I don't know if like we kind of hitched our cart to theirs, like having this kickoff on Monday, but I think this is a great kickoff to have on Monday. We talk about some of the challenges that we have, but we give everybody positive solutions for things that they can do. So, I mean, the one thing that I'm walking away with is, I need to do a repair session today. Absolutely need to do a repair session. There's so many people that are talking about, I'm feeling a change of wind of energy. So I'm going to be very purposeful for the next couple of hours, repairing my own energy. What are you going to do this morning, Mr. Rick?
I'm going to stretch myself out of my comfort zone, right? Because away from here, like I say, the thing is about when you do this, you can, if you get like too wrapped up in your own ego, be sat here as the preacher, right? I am not a preacher. My whole aim is, and there was a lovely comment on there about loving my analogies. I'm a storyteller. I spent a lot of time in my own imagination. So I've not cultivated a great social circle. So recently I put out to Spirit that I would like more friends, right? And my wife has found this hysterical that I've now found two ladies that I can sit and have a conversation with that think like I do. Now imagine having that sort of energy going and coming in as a big clash. So later on this afternoon, I should be doing two things. I should be taking the noisy dogs out, and apologies if they're fighting on the landings been heard. And I should be going into the woods. And the second thing is I'll be getting out my comfort zone by going and speaking to somebody on the same sort of level as where I'm at, the way that I process, the way that I think. And it'll be one of those sessions where we'll probably both come away where we've been scratching our heads, but at least we'll have had a cup of tea. So under constant assessment, there was a comment on one of my things the other night that don't go too introspective with it. Well, you obviously don't know me well enough, because that is me. That is how I process. That's how I keep myself upright. That I do go introspective. I do process my thoughts. And this is constant. It's live. It's 24 hours a day. The issues that I'm facing up to at the moment is that I need mind management, because if I get something in my head, it will just be there until I go to sleep again. And it's maintenance. So it's checking in on yourself. Like you're saying, if you've had a really busy time, if you've had a real energetic sort of outpouring for somebody and you've given everything, it's taking just a couple of steps back to go, right, breathe, just stop, slow your energy down, slow the thought process down, right? Nobody is saying that watching us, listening to Hutch, is going to solve your problems overnight. But the thing is, the more that you get into the habit of doing productive things that help your energy and give you the upliftment and make you more wary of dealing with the energy vampires and the more difficult people around you, the better you're going to get at doing it. Right? I very much doubt, of all of these people that I've had the fortune to meet with since I've been working on YouTube here, there's ever going to be a time where any of us are going to come on here and do a thing and go, we're the complete human being. We've got it all right. Money's in balance. There's no illness in the family. There's no problems, because this is the reality. Life is not like that. We're constantly working at maintaining. And my idea behind any of the work that I do is to put out some of the things that have tripped me up, some of the things that I worry about, that I get agitated about. And if I found a way of solving it, if we've got one person on here and what we've said today is impacted, or you can put it into your own computer and go, right, I get that, but he's not here in this situation, so I need to put this in to make it work for me, then my day has been worth it, because I've got out of bed, I've had a lovely interaction that's with somebody that's got the same sort of energy and the thought processes that I have, but we've also got differences. When I sit with Hutch, we watch Hutch's program, and we'll have a conversation about things. Right? He will one day learn just how spiritual he is, but because he's focused on what he's focused on at the moment, then we've got a difference, because he thinks I feel everything spiritually, and he's at all things practical and fitness. Well, I see slightly above all of that and see him for what he really is. And once he realizes that he's an energetic worker as well, like the rest of us, then you're subject to the rules and regulations that we are, Paul. There's some days when our energy is above and beyond everything that we can perceive. And then there's other days where we drop flat because we've given everything. So
I'm so looking forward to the day that Hutch realizes he's actually a healer. And
he is.
He goes, oh, F off.
Yeah. That's the man that I've known and admired for what I'm trying to think how long we've known each other now. I think so, probably coming up 17 years, I think.
Yeah, I think that's going to blow his mind. Like,
he's probably sat there going like this now.
But he wrote something. He just blitzed his office. So that's actually a really, really good thing for harnessing positive energy. Our houses will get stale. Our offices will get stale. If you've got dust and clutter and all kinds of, and we've got issues with clutter in our house right now. I've got 3 people that I live with that think everything is important to keep. So we're working on that. That's a whole other process. But when you actually clean out a space, think about it. When you've moved from one house to another and you've cleaned out a room or an apartment or, an entire home, it feels different. It takes you a while when you move into a new place to settle in there and kind of get your stank all over it. There's something to that. That is the energetic plane that we're living in. And you can take those opportunities to make changes to your behavior, make changes to your practices. So Hutch, Paul, that you absolutely did the right thing by swapping that around. You had an energetic change. You're swapping the office around so that you can kind of resort yourself with that. So one of the things that, Rick and I had talked about privately, but we didn't kind of put it into our formal plan is like having a spiritual toolkit. So over the 6 weeks that we're doing this, again, we're in week 2, you should develop a spiritual toolkit. And are you gonna have a complete, $50,000 toolkit at the end of the 6 weeks? No, you're going to add to that toolkit as needed. So the week 1, we talked about cultivating inner peace and using meditation. Meditation is something that goes into your toolkit. Finding the yellow brick road, that's just a level of positivity, finding some steps that we will use to get to inner peace. Now, for today, we have the energy dump. We have Rick's bucket that you throw your stuff into, you get rid of it. Positive repair session where, I'm going to bring down all this nice love and light from up on high. And the coming home doorway dump where I'm going to scrape all of us are going to start scraping our feet so that we can get all of the negative energy that we picked up as we're out and about in the world. So, a few little tools that we have there to just add to our arsenal. I will say arsenal. I don't know if that's a word that YouTube is going to trigger, but that we can add to be the spiritual warriors that we are, to get through our day, to spiritually fight through the nonsense and the minutia of what we see in our terrestrial lives. Our terrestrial lives are very cluttered energetically. Since the advent of technologies, we're just inundated with information and items, and we're not walking around the fire and going out and hunting and gathering and coming back with that. We've got all kinds of other craziness that's going on, people with power dynamics in our social life, people with power dynamics in our work life that isn't working toward a specific goal that is collective and makes sense. So, we deal with a lot of stuff. So having a really solid spiritual toolkit, I think, is really key to keep us sane in our regular life and kind of realigning with those spiritual selves. What do you think about that, Rick? I kind of went off now.
I say I'm open to looking at anything. It depends on what the mood is like. I mean, I'll just pick up on that point there, Sue. I don't think Paul is a healer, but rather a motivator. Just consider that one and the same, right? You see, I don't know whether it's just that some people see a healer as being somebody who puts hands on, or a Reiki practitioner, or things like that. Essentially, all of us, when we're talking to somebody else out there and we're bringing that motivation and that positivity through, there's a need for it. So somebody's energy needs that facilitator, needs that person to boost it. And if there's the person out there that can deliver it in a way that the receiver can understand, that is going to promote healing, right? That is going to promote that motivation. That is going to promote that forward momentum. So I'm a big believer. This is my personal opinion. I'm not arguing, because everybody's entitled to their perspective. I just look at that anybody that gets involved in another person's energy for their benefit and their upliftment is promoting healing in some way or another. So I include all counsellors, all therapists, anything there that is helping promote that energy, that movement of energy, whatever techniques that you employ, because there's vast sort of healing techniques and things out there. There's motivational speakers, as you say. There's people there that do hands-on and things like that. Then we're all looking for upliftment and that transference of energy to the higher energies. So I look at everything that is sort of put out there. And imagine that you're sort of snuffling through. I think sometimes you need to be a bit of a spiritual raccoon, where you sort of snuffle through all of the bits of things that are left about and see what you can utilize. I started out with all of this 7 years ago, saying that I was a bit of a womble. Now, womble over here can be derogatory in the sense of that you're not quite wired up straight. You're a bit of a womble. Or the other side of it, which I tend to prefer, is that the Wombles lived on Wimbledon Common, and what they used to do is recycle the stuff that everyday folks left behind. So when I meet people, part of my spiritual toolbox is I will listen to seminars, I will listen to how people have motivated people. I look at other people's reviews and see what that person did to get that review. And I think, right, I can adapt that. And then what I tend to find is the very next client that comes and sits down with me needs that particular part. They might just need that motivation. So you'll find with me that when I sit with people and I do a reading or a message with them, I say to them, have you had a reading before? And then the next thing that comes out of my mouth is what you're looking for from this interaction. I've actually got to the point now in my spiritual career where, yes, I want to make money. I want to be able to put food on my table and pay the household bills. But what is always important to me is about clients. Right. So I will look into that spiritual toolkit and just see what I can use to help that client. If I have not got anything in my toolbox that will help that client promote them going forward, I will quite happily recommend them on to somebody else. I'll quite say to them, you know, am I the person that you really want to invest your, not only your life's hours, but also your hard-earned money in? And I will quite happily send people to people that I would go to if I needed information. So I'm not arguing with you in so many senses, but I think everybody's got that potential to heal people. Just in some people, it's more dormant than others. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Very, very much. Lovely compliment. I'll just say thank you on that one.
Yeah, I find working with you, Rick, and that's why I put Miss Lieber's comment there. I find it, you know, it's and this is part of the reason why I put together our psychic news universe. You know, in your everyday life, like I'm kind of the odd one out. You know, we're at an event on Friday with my husband's people. And, you know, it's like, there's a weirdo wife psychic over there. You know, there's a little bit of that. You know, there's, and so many of my husband's coworkers know that I had a really notable job in the insurance industry. I had a pretty serious job. And so like now they're like, wow, she gave that up. And like now she's a weirdo. You know, I'm like, no, I always was a weirdo. So you know, it's hard to find people that resonate like that. And I just recently reconnected with a friend of mine who moved out west a number of years ago. And we're gonna put something together, not a collab, but we're gonna have a chit chat. And just kind of see where we are in our own energetic lives right now. So, you know, I think our paths are differently aligned now than they were when we were younger, and more positively aligned. Let's put it that way. So I think it's really interesting. Christy just asked, are we doing, are we on every Monday morning? Yes, we are.
Week 2 out of 6.
What's that?
Week 2 out of 6.
Actually, it's more than that. We did this before, but we put together a 6-week content plan. So they have 4 more weeks of us. And then we'll take it from there. You know, if this is something that's serving everybody really well, we just came up with a really good, with the help of AI, we came up with a good vibrational uplift for everybody. So, you know, we really do want to help everybody kick their week off really nicely. And this is a less taxing live for me than when I do lives for just, you know, general readings for people, or when I'm doing the celebrity readings, because I'm not stuck in that ethereal psychic zone. I'm not reading the whole time. This is more conversation about like what we do and some practical usage for people. So I think this is great. I think it helps kick the week off, right? TD, there she is. It helps kick the week off. So and we're going to keep it at this early hour so that the people in the United Kingdom can really benefit from getting it as early as possible. The first couple we did, I think, were more on they were a little bit later in the day. So I think this is a much better time, even though it's bright and early for me. I know it's good. I had my coffee, had some water. So and Grumpy says, can we do my formal on a Zoom or Google Meets? Sure. we can say certain things on Zoom and Google Meets that we can't on social media. We're not allowed to say certain things on social media. Like I said Arsenal before, and if I'm not, they may think I'm talking about a football team, or they may think I'm being threatening. So who knows? Who knows what the powers that be are? So are you exploding?
Yeah, it's frustrating because I understand the need to keep everybody safe, but we live in a difficult world. At least allow people to have their own thoughts and their own discretion. The thing we spoke about earlier about subscribers and things like that, people have that option, don't they? They have the off button. We're not a cult. We're not suddenly trying to recruit you down this pathway of righteousness and living the hippy dippy life. We're talking about real life stuff. The aim there is not to convert anybody into anything. We're not sitting here as saying we are the purveyors of everything that's righteous in the world. We're sat here working our way through a difficult life in the vain hope that somebody will look into this and go, do you know what? I'm not on my own. And I might just go away here with a little bit of a happy thought and just go, do you know what? That was worth investing a little bit of my time in. I might not personally do it that way, but I'm going to go out there and I'm going to pass on that smile. And this is where we're talking about this energy. Once you get that energy ball rolling, and I've seen this happen, you can promote healing to people. We're not sitting here saying we're the cure-all or anything like that. We're in this difficult real life spot that we're having to live, going on and on and on every single day. And we're just looking at about making it easier for people. If you've got a better way of doing it, then please email me. Tell me how I can make my life easier without it costing me a fortune. And I'll be happy to sit and invest some of my life's hours in you guys. But if you've got any moderators sat there looking at words that we're saying, just talk to people and see if that is the true inference of what they're actually saying. Arsenal is a word in the English dictionary. It is a football team. It is gathering up a sort of weapons. I know the definition. Am I sat here telling anybody to go and support Arsenal? Absolutely not. I'm a Liverpool supporter, and for my sins. So, whatever you need to do with it. But, this censorship thing, anyway, I could go on forever and I won't.
Yeah, the Hutch just said every week their Sunday check gets unsuitable for ads. I wonder why. It's so strange.
Just incredible, isn't it? That it just seems to be a thing for me, that this promoting of positivity and upliftment, we need to get into this element of controlling what people have. And none of us, anybody that I've sat and watched, you look at Foxy, you look at Trevor, you look at Paul, you look at the work that we do, we're looking at reality. Right? So, we're looking at the world that we live in.
We just had a very interesting experience with our daughter. So she's a university student or college student, and she is very A-type. And she did perfect attendance. She has always been high honor. She just made Dean's List. She's extraordinary as an academic and as a student. And she said to me yesterday, I am going to do something that is very out of character, and it may be very shocking to you. And I was very intrigued. I said, oh, what are you going to do? And she said, I am going to skip my short story class on Tuesday. And I said, oh, well, why is that? This was very interesting. She said, we had to read 2 short stories that are highly feminist, and I just don't want to sit through the class and hear all of the toxic femininity or feminism, toxic feminism because I think it would be psychically damaging. And I was shocked that she said psychically damaging. So, and I don't want people to think that I don't raise my daughter to be tough, and I don't raise her to um, be a free thinker. But I was very excited about this. I said, you know what? I think that's great that you've kind of recognized your limitations. And I said, skipping class approved. She's never skipped a class ever academically. So, and then when she presented this to Greg, Greg said, "Well, wait a minute. I think it's important for you to hear counterpoints, points that are different from yours." And her counterpoint to the counterpoint was, well, I already know what the conversation's going to be. I processed that information. I've made my decision about it. I have my own convictions, and I'm not going to go to the class. He really wanted her to go to the class. And he said, part of the issue with some young people is that when they're encountering something that they don't like, they will turn their back on it and not listen to the other part of it. And she said, well, absolutely not. That's not what's going on. I understand the counterpoint to it. It is not part of my my makeup, my sensibilities. And I just don't need to sit there and listen to it for an hour and a half or 2 hours. I have other classwork that I can work on. I said, point taken, done. So my daughter is going to skip her first class ever, lifetime. And she's going to work on some other classes. So I applaud her for that. And I talked to her about my experience when I was at university with ultra feminism. I'm going to put it that way. Are you familiar with the beauty myth? Do you know that article? So it was written, I believe, in the 70s, and it was a call to action for young women. And I'm going to boil this down. I'm going to be very, very surface about it. To not fall into the trappings of beauty and let your true self come out. So don't fuss about makeup and hair and all that. Just kind of go as you are and let your intelligence flow through. And you should be accepted without all of the trappings of beauty and the excessive accoutrement that we do. And I even though I wasn't like I wasn't a glamazon like I am now. Like, I love makeup and hair, and like I'm clothed and so into it. But, I was much simpler then, but something didn't sit right with it, because I have always been primarily like a sales type of person, and I understand people want to buy from people that look shiny and exciting and all that. So I explained to my daughter that I having the experience of being presented with the beauty myth, and the philosophy of the beauty myth, it made me more convicted in my way of thinking. You do dress for the job you want. You do present well to people if you want to get your point across, and you're going to be more effective with that. Just throwing out all your makeup and wearing the same tweed suit every day is not going to let your intelligence shine through as much as it's going to not wrap the Christmas present in a really pretty shiny package. Is it necessary? Not really, but are we as a human race engineered to be attracted to attractive things? You can't fly in the face of conditioning at some point. So it was an interesting conversation that I got to have with my daughter. I was very proud of her for understanding her limitations, and I thought it was wild that she said psychically damaging. I was like, psychically damaging. Oh, look at that. We've been on an hour and 49 minutes. What flew? Holy crow. All right. Well, So we'll wrap this up. We'll wrap up our live with everybody. We had a lot of great people in here today. So your toolkit items, positive for today. Last week, let's just rewrap for your spiritual toolkit. Last week was meditation and doing like a protective circle around yourself. For this week, the items that you're going to add into your toolkit, positive repair sessions, that's, replenishing with white light from universe. Energy dump, you're going to dump it into the bucket, Paul's bucket. I dump out the cup and scraping our feet at the doorway. Anything you want to add, my friend?
The exercise program. It fits in nicely. So every morning when we wake up, put our hand like that or like that, depending on which one that you want to do. And we feel the energy around us. You feel your clothing. My short sleeve shirt, Foxy, even though he's not on at the moment. You feel your bedclothes. If you're lucky enough to have your partner next to you, whatever that is, then you've got the opportunity to have another full day and have a go at whatever it is that you didn't achieve yesterday. So there are no problems in the world, right? So everybody will say, yes, but what if, right? So we're in that living day where we can change what we can change. The only real problem that we've got in life is the day that we wake up and we put a hand above ourselves like that and we feel wooden soil above us, because then we've gone. And then it's not a problem anyway, because we're not here to worry about it. So remember that even when you get bogged down in the problems and the difficulties in life, assuming, and it's a big assumption these days with what's going on around us, that we're going to get up every single morning. Remember, it's a gift, it's an opportunity. And that's why it's called the present. It might seem a little bit twee, but it's one of those things that even in the most flat spaces of my life, I'm grateful that I've got the opportunity to get up in the morning and affect the change. And then if I can affect change, I can pass on those words to other people. And that is my sincere hope in anybody that watches these sort of things, that you can build your own spiritual toolkit. And then I can turn around and watch some of you guys' lives and inspire myself in the same way. So for me, thank you again for spending your time and your last hours. Thank you for your company, Annabelle. It's been amazing again. And it's uplifted my soul. I look for the simplest of words, and for me this morning it's been chicken soup for my soul. It's obviously just what I needed, because I shall go and have the rest of my day, even though I've got to do something that I feel slightly uncomfortable with, I shall still be going out there in a positive, uplifted mindset. So thank you everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate that.
Thanks so much, everybody. And we'll be back next Monday. We'll be here. And we will what you're having the time change next week, aren't you?
I believe, and I'm not 100% sure on this, so don't hold me to it. I think it's in another week. I think it's, so we've got this week, and then I think it's right at the end of the month. I'm not 100% sure on that. So I think it's around the Easter weekend for us.
Okay. So one of the things that I told Rick last night, I think at 2:00 in the morning, my time, is that I'm going to set up the live right after we finish this. So we'll have it set up so you can put a reminder there for yourself. You can jump in, but it'll be, I know, 6 a.m. my time in New York. So whatever time that is, it'll adjust automatically once we set it up. You'll see it on YouTube or Facebook or X or wherever you're watching us. So so until next week, but we'll talk about we'll contact Paul about maybe we'll do a special during this week, and we'll get together. We'll have like a pre-tea special this week and bring him in and talk about how his energy shifted. So until then, everybody, we will see you all later. Have a great day.
Take care.
Bye,
Thank you.